Okay, Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Homage to the Buddha. On behalf of Lumbini Nepalese Buddhist Society, I would like to welcome today's speaker, Dr. Keshar Shrestha, as well as you all who are joining us through Zoom, as well as on Facebook Live. So today's talk program is quite interesting topic, as well as very important topic as well in our life, as well as as a practitioner of Buddhism. Is very good topic. Now, this topic, Dr. Kesarji, raised this, saying that the one of the very difficult point in his life, as well as ours, is that attachment is very difficult to grasp, as well as to understand. So that's why we thought, okay, let's have today's session on attachment. So Dr. Keshar Shrestha, who is from Sunderland, originally of course from Nepal, is a consultant psychiatric, so which is very good to hear from his point of view as a psychiatric, that what he thinks attachment is in his term, how he sees it, by seeing patients, as well as in his medical field. So, and after that, I will be looking at the points where, from philosophical as well as Buddhist point of view, how we see attachment and how we can, let it go, or we can reduce it in our life, so that, as the teachings of the Buddha, bringing us, or freeing from this attachment for the more happiness or happy life. So without further ado, I would invite Dr. Keshar Shrestha, and at the end, we will have time to raise our questions, put our views and ideas to make it, to elaborate further discussion on this topic, attachment and how to let it go. So now, may I invite Dr. Keshar Shrestha to address today's talk. Dr. Ju, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Amrit ji, for that lovely introduction. So hello, and thank you everyone who are present there. My special thanks to Lumbini Nepalese Buddha Dharma Society for inviting me today to give this talk. I'm really very pleased to be here. I also like to thank Dr. Dharmbak Sakya, who was the first one to ask me to do. Dharmbak Sakya and myself studied together at Trichandra College in Kathmandu, Nepal, and we have been friends since 1960. In 1962, we both left Nepal to study medicine in India. I'd like to thank Amrit ji for helping me with PowerPoints and preparing the slides. I'm also pleased to have Amrit ji as an anchor and co-speaker who is chairing the meeting today. So let me start by brief self-introduction and my background before the main talk, which is attachment. I like to share in my talk my personal experience, feelings, and my view of what is attachment and what it means to me. My name is Keshar Shrestha. As Amrit ji explained, I am a psychiatrist, and I'm also working as senior lecturer at Newcastle University. I am married, and my wife is Sarojini, We have 3 grown-up children. They are all married, and I have 2 granddaughters. I was born in Kathmandu, Nepal. I mention this because I say this, the culture, the tradition, the values, and the belief, as well as the family atmosphere surrounding in my upbringing, seems to have a significant impact on the development of my psychological and mental well-being, as well as shaping my personality. I was born in a Hindu family. It's a traditional business family. By the way, I have to say I'm not a Buddhist, but I grew up along with a few Buddhist family and friends. Those of you who have not been to Kathmandu, Nepal, may not know this. In Kathmandu, we do not make any difference between a Hindu and the Buddhist. We live in harmony and celebrate each other's religious ceremonies. And I still remember going around in my hometown on the celebration of birth of Lord Buddha. It seems to happen on 26th of Baisakh, something like that. So that I remember clearly. However, I have to confess that I do not know much about Buddhism and the teachings of Lord Buddha, and I'm not very proud of it. Before I do the main talk, I'd like to give you a bit of background and say a few words about mental health. Last year and a half, since March 2020 to up till now, which is 1st of August 21, we were not living under normal circumstances. Due to pandemic, COVID-19, we were under lockdown. As a result, people are feeling more anxious and stressed out. We all have pressure in our daily life, even without pandemic and COVID-19, but this COVID-19 and anxiety. The latest Delta variation of coronavirus have become highly contagious, and there seems to be more waves after waves coming and affecting the population as a whole. And the unfortunate thing is, even people who have been fully vaccinated seems to get the COVID-19. In my clinic, as Amrit mentioned, I am seeing increasing number of patients with anxiety, depression, as well as related mental health problems, such as drinking problem, drug problems, and domestic violence. And these seems to have increased since COVID-19 pandemic. I also see that people are beginning to talk openly about mental health affected them. Mental health was at one time a taboo in our society, and people with mental health problems were stigmatized. The society were prejudiced against people with mental health problem, but I see that slowly but surely mental health has become an important topic of discussion these days amongst the royal and Prince Harry, sport personnel like tennis player Osaka, the American gymnast Simone Biles, and lately English cricket player Ben Stokes. they all talk openly about their mental health problems. The next, the care and treatment of people with mental health problems were nothing like what we see today. In those days, most people with mental health problems were cared for in large asylum away from the community and were institutionalized. The only available treatment at that time were custodial management under the watchful eyes of the authorities. So today's topic is relevant in the present climate, and attachment, which is a part of psychological and mental well-being, has become a useful discussion. I believe that there are biological and psychological markers printed all over human body as a part of attachment. So if I can come to the first slide, Amrit ji, can I have the first slide, please? Right. Well, this is just a brief introduction of myself. And yes, so today's topic on attachment. Next slide, please. Right. This is just a declaration. This is not a spiritual or religious talk. I'm not qualified to do talk on any such subject. And this can we go back to the first slide? Yes. I'm not familiar with religious and spiritual topics. This is more based on psychological, physiological, and behavioral personal experience. I have to say that I have not done any research on this at present, so it is not based on evidence as well. Next slide, please. Right. Now, when I'm doing the talk of attachment, it is very important to mention this name, John Bowlby, 1907 to 1990, who was an English psychiatrist, psychologist, and psychoanalyst. His main interest was child development, pioneering work on attachment. Next slide, please. So next is the theory of attachment. It is an evolutionary theory of attachment with biologically pre-programmed to form attachment with others, mainly mother. Attachment helped them to survive. A child has inborn need to be attached to one main figure. Next slide, please. So here is the definition of attachment as defined by John Bowlby. It means deep bond between two people in which each individual seeks closeness and feels more secure when in the presence of the attachment figure or the person. Next slide, please. There are 4 phases of this attachment as the child develops, and the attachment is between the child and the mother. So the initial first phase happens between 0 to 3 months. So as soon as the child is born and up to the 3 months period, there is one phase, and between 3 months to 6 months is the second phase. 6 months to 3 years is the third phase, and 3 years and on becomes more kind of fourth phase until the child is fully grown up. Next slide, please. Right. So in this slide, you can see there are different types of attachment. The first one, I describe it as secure attachment, which means it is healthy and it is very soothing to the relationship between the child and the attachment figure. The second one, I describe it as an type, which means there is no direct emotional bond between the child or the other attached person like mother. They both have some anxiety about the relationship or not sure about how they should form this attachment. The third one is called disorganized attachment. This type is very erratic in its form. It varies one day to next, and it is not consistent and can change from being over-attached to become totally negligent and not caring at all. And the final one is the avoidant, where the mother refused to attend to the child's need or the cries. Now, this type of attachment can become not safe for the child, as the child at that point is totally dependent on the attached person, which is the mother. Thank you. So this slide, as you can see, there is not a normal and healthy attachment between the child and the mother. There could be mental symptoms as described in this slide, okay, in the form of disorder. So it could be a bullying type or someone who is aggressive and violent, okay? So that's the first type. The second type is extreme clinginess due to fear of abandonment. So the child becomes very, very clingy and would not leave the attached person like mother out of sight. So because they have this very insecure feeling saying that they are going to be left alone. Third point is the type of symptoms which is common is failure to smile or lack of emotional expression. So the child becomes quite serious most of the time, and they have a very blank or what we call as flat expression. There's hardly any emotional feelings coming out in their appearances. Then the fourth one is the intense burst of anger, when for no reason they have temper tantrums, outburst, and they become quite unmanageable in the family. The fifth one is they do not have any eye contact, which means their eyes are fixed to the ground or their eyes are fixed somewhere on the ceiling, and they do not seem to be able to make with the other person, which is mother. And so this makes it very difficult to have a proper rapport between the child and the mother. The sixth one is the lack of affection for mother. So the child always is very demanding, but do not show any affection to mother. And the final one is the oppositional behavior. That means the child does not listen to any ordinary request or command, so they cry a lot, and at night they become much more difficult to put to bed. So this is called oppositional behavior. So in this slide, I try to give you an idea about the difference between what is love and what is attachment. So this is my understanding. Love means before someone else need before your own. But in attachment, you just want someone to be there before you. I hope I made this point clear. Next slide, please. Now, attachment disorder. Now, this disorder, I've taken it from our mental health classification book, which is published by the WHO. And this is the series 10. So attachment can lead to various mental health disorder later on in life. Okay, and some of them are personality disorder, as I mentioned, which is one is paranoid personality disorder, which means the person is very suspicious, always making accusations, wild accusations about people doing things to, and they have severe relationship difficulties. They do not trust anybody because they feel that people are generally against him. The second one is called schizoid personality disorder. This disorder is characterized by a very lonely, isolated persons who live in a fantasy world of their own. They have various dreams, but they do not share with anybody, and they are off in their own world and seems to make little or no contact with the outside world. The third one is antisocial personality disorder. That means they don't seem to fit in the society very well. They are always reacting in a way which is against the norms in the society, the values, the expectations, and the behaviors. They don't seem to be able to comply with that. So that is antisocial. Now, the fourth one is emotionally unstable personality disorder. So these persons, they don't seem to be able to regulate their emotions. So 1 minute they can be happy, very sociable, friendly, and easy to get on with. But the next minute, suddenly they change. They become very aggressive, hostile, angry, outburst, and often seems to fall out with people and make themselves very miserable. So these are some of the personality disorder which can happen due to lack of person attachment. Now, to continue on this, histrionic personality disorder, which means they are very much self-centered, self-opinionated, and over-dramatizing. They make a huge topic or issue, and they are often wanting attention to themselves. So this is often described as histrionic personality disorder. They are always looking for gains, and if they do not get the attention or the present things, then they react in an over-dramatization way. The next one is obsessional personality disorder. And this one is, they have ideas which seems to be a bit ridicule or not of any significance, but ideas. And so often they feel very anxious as a result of this. And typical example is fear of contamination. So they feel that they can't touch any objects because they are worried about being contaminated. So they keep washing their hands all the time. That's kind of personal disorder we see as obsessional. Then they avoid is the same thing. They are so anxious that they can't go out of their own premises. They can't go to the market, or they can't meet people, or they can't even carry out any kind of social gatherings. And finally is the dependent personality disorder. These people are very dependent on someone to the point that the persons feels totally inadequate and very much unable to carry out their own day-to-day activities. Next slide, please. Coping and defense mechanism. Now, I put this slide just to give you and how our emotional life or emotional feelings, how do they work, and what it does to us and what it means. So basically, as I said there, it is a protective system designed to protect us from any harms in our emotional life. For instance, if we get a bad news and you just can't accept it, then we react to this system in mechanism known as denial. So we are so terrified that this news can cause serious hurt feelings. So we pretend that it did not happen. So this is designed mainly to protect us. Next slide, please. Right. So there are other defense mechanisms which is described here, like someone totally change their personality into a different personality, and this is a dissociative personality. The fifth point is called insight, which is a critical understanding of the problem and ability to reflect in the past events in a meaningful way. So this is insight, though they lose insight, they don't really seem to appreciate what other people who are trying to help them, they do not accept it. Finally, the mental capacity. Now, I think if I can explain this mental capacity as something that, of course, the capacity in different areas, but mental capacity is something like if they have got any mental health problem, they don't seem to be able to grasp that, and they don't really think that there's anything wrong with them, and therefore they do not accept any help or support, and also they do not have ability to make any decisions. So if I offer them a treatment or support or understand what I'm trying to help them with. Okay, so these are some of the things as a result of coping defense mechanism. Right. So some of these, can I have the next slide, please? Right. So this slide shows signs of abandonment disorder due to lack of attachment. So the person's giving too much or being overly eager to please, appeasement kind of things, jealousy in relationship or jealous of other persons, also having difficulty in trusting relationship with the partner, as I mentioned before, feeling insecure about relationship, having difficulties in intimate relationship, and also needing to control or control by partner. So these are some of the things which can happen later in life, in adult life, due to disorder of attachment. Now, before this last slide, I just want to share so I'll just start by saying that I like to share my personal experience. As I mentioned, to me, the birth has got a special meaning. And it also has got a special purpose. For instance, I look at my belly button, which also described as umbilicus or navel, and the immediate thing that comes to my mind is my attachment to my mother. For 9 months or so, as an unborn baby, I was attached to my mother by umbilical cord. My mother provided me with shelter, nutrition, and warmth inside herself, and until I was ready to be born. To me, that was the first attachment. This attachment, even now, generates a very powerful and overwhelming feelings for me. As a newborn baby, I grew up drinking my mother's milk, and the bond became even stronger. So you can see attachment have got biological and psychological marker. It brings the kind of emotions that you experience even now. I think these are the reasons why it is so difficult to detach yourself, to imagine the day when this attachment would come to an end. It will be a big tragic loss. People suffer from bereavement and grief reaction when the attachment comes to an end. And they say the stronger the attachment, more severe is the bereavement reaction. In my life again, my second stage of attachment happened when I became a father. Every time I took my little baby in my arms, I felt heavenly peaceful and overwhelmed with joy. Similar attachment happened at the time of birth of my two sons. Now all my children are grown up and living their own life. It is the attachment between the father and the children that kept us so close and knit together. My third experience of attachment took place when my two grandchildren were born. It was an amazing and fantastic feeling. To me, it is very much this attachment that keep me going and give me a sense of purpose in life. I mentioned the pandemic and lockdown earlier at the beginning of my talk. Life was so difficult and restricted due to pandemic, but I talk to my children, I talk to my grandchildren, and I talk to my mother 2 to 3 times a week, and I forget all the hardships due to COVID-19. So I can't imagine what would I have done if I didn't have this attachment. So finally, the point I'm trying to make, as Amritji explained right at the beginning, how difficult it is to turn away or to give up your attachment. I want to make this point. I am an ordinary person, very simple living, and have no high ambitions. I think I'm reasonably happy with my life. I do things that I believe in. I really don't think I want anything more in my life. But the question I like to put all this very learned audience is, do you think I should give up everything and turn away from life like a bhikshu in order to achieve a spiritual peace or moksha? So with this, I end my talk. Thank you for listening, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Keshar. That was a quite enlightening talk that you have given. As a psychiatric, you highlighted, what meant in mental as well as what goes through in our life in psychiatric way, mental way. Yes, now that was as a doctor point of view we just heard, and so I'm going to, before we go to the question, I'm going to look at from Buddhist point of view what and how we look at, and how, as Dr. Ji just raised the question, how can we overcome this attachment? Okay, now attachment is a very common or main topic in teachings of the Buddha, because if we look at the whole teachings of the Buddha, this is the main point where, even when we look at Four Noble Truth, that this is the point where the Buddha emphasized that when even the Buddha attained the enlightenment, that he uttered, we call Udana Gatha. Udana Gatha is the stanzas of joy, and that is where the Buddha said that I went through all these lives looking for the builder of this house, of these five aggregates, which taking me from samsara to samsara. So that's where even there the Buddha, pointed out this tanha is the main builder, that which brings all this suffering. So that is what we have to overcome. Now, let's go from, as I understood, I will go through in a simple way what I understood and how we can overcome attachment. Then we can go to discussion. Now, what is attachment? Now, that is the main question we have to understand. Is attachment, as Dr. Ji just said, the need, like, mother, child, is it the need, is attachment, like we need food, sleep, money, house, job, relationship, all these three things, as long as we live in this life, that we all need this? Or is it having, having houses, having money, having family, is this attachment? Or wanting, I would like to have a good life, I don't want to be poor, not knowing what I'm going to eat tomorrow or what I'm going to wear. So I want to have a sufficient things to make my life comfortable, happy. So is that attachment? So these are the things, we can look. But from Buddhist point of view, my understanding is these are not attachments. These are, one can say, these are necessities, these are needs, while we live this life to sustain our life, these five aggregates, to sustain our journey till, we passes away, die, and move on to another life. So wanting, needing, requirements, what I see is not, you can't say is attachment. Because as we know that, when we are in trouble, when we are not well, we need family. So we have a close bond with our family, with our friends. So we go look after jobs so that we can be financially secure, so that our life can move on happily and peacefully, whatever, so we can make life better. So even, when we look at the life of the Buddha, that there are many places that Buddha, we can say in the later, that Buddha did enjoy. Buddha never said to overcome attachment means to suffer. And as Dr. Ji said, you only can get that when we renounce and become bhikshu or monk or sannyas. There is no such a thing. While being whether monk or nun or as a Buddhist, we can enjoy life, because that is the whole purpose. If we can't enjoy this life, and the teachings of the Buddha would be not relevant, not useful, not helpful at all. So when Buddha even visited Kapilvastu after he attained the Buddhahood, and then after many years he visited Kapilvastu, saying, he said to his monks that I would like to visit Kapilvastu to see my family. And Buddha did visit, and also when he visited the palace, he said, I would like to see Yasodhara, his wife. And the Buddha said, she has done great amount of favor and support to me to become the Buddha throughout the life. So Buddha personally visited Yasodhara's chamber to show his, one can say, gratitude, so then, and equally when he was returning, after spending 2 days in Kapilvastu, when he was coming back, he walked away to a distance and he turned around and looked at the Kapilvastu city from the distance. And then the Buddha expressed that, how beautiful the Kapilvastu is. So that we can't say that, the Buddha, when he attended, who doesn't, or who has overcome all this attachment, how can he, have that kind of connection? So that's why, this needing, wanting is, I don't see, is any hindrance. So attachment in that term is quite good. That's why even Buddha said that even as a monk and nun, if you have old parents, you can look after your parents. And the Buddha said there is no, from Vinaya rules, the monks and nuns rules, he said, you are okay, you are safe to look after your parents. So because that, in a layman term, we can say that attachment, that is your bondage. But the Buddha said, no, that is your duty, that is your responsibility. Now, having looked at this, that, we just try to understand what is not attachment. Now, let's see how our, as it comes in Abhidhamma, as well as in a Paticca Samuppada, the dependent origination, how it explained, or at what point that, from Buddhist point of view, attachment should be looked at or should be overcome. Now, six senses which we all have. We all have eyes to see, ear to hear, nose to smell, tongue to taste, body to touch, mind to think. No? Now, these six senses doesn't mean anything at all. No? So that we all have it. How does it function? How does it work? Is now let's take an example that we have eye, and there is an object. So we have object, something to look at. Say that there is a statue or there is a flower. Now, when I look at flower, does it see? No, it doesn't see. Just because I look at flower, we don't see the flower. You know, like in Newari word, we say "pala swego." You know, you're just staring. You know, when we are gazing, while we have mentally different things going in our mind. You know, when we are worried or when we are thinking of certain situation, we will be looking at things, but we are not seeing things. You know, and so that is, even though eye sees flower, there is no seeing. So what is missing there is what we call consciousness. Consciousness when physical eye, looks at physical flower, and then when there is a consciousness, then the eye consciousness takes place. And then only we say, this is a flower. So now we see a flower. Now seeing a flower, similarly, then, you know, it could be air, hearing a sound. Then when there is a consciousness, air consciousness, the hearing takes place. Till we have a consciousness, hearing doesn't mean anything, because, you know, if you have concentrated on certain things, you don't hear other noises because your concentration is in a different point. So same way, you know, when the taste, same way the, you know, taste consciousness, the body touches, then the body consciousness, the same way mind, thought consciousness, all these six senses takes place. Now, when an eye sees a flower, there is a seeing. Now, there is nothing wrong with that. And now what happens? The eye consciousness says, it is a beautiful, beautiful flower. Yeah. Now there is a beautiful flower. We recognize it because of consciousness. We start recognizing, it's a beautiful flower. Now, if I like that flower, then what happens? The first thing takes place is it gives us joy. Yeah, it says, it's a beautiful flower. Now I feel happy. Oh, it's a beautiful garden, you know, beautiful park. The joy takes place that makes you happy. Similarly, say that the flower I saw, I didn't like it. Say that the flower was, decaying or dead or something, I'm allergic, I might get hay fever through that. Then what happens? The eye consciousness bring me unhappiness, dukkha. So just by seeing a flower in mind, there is a sukha. Similarly, it could be dukkha, unhappiness. As well as it could be asukha masukha, neither happiness nor unhappiness also can take place, because I saw a flower, it doesn't mean anything. So what? Because I'm not excited or it is not making me unhappy. So in that way, it can be neutral as well. So now what happens here is when we see a flower, then it's beautiful. Now I want to have it. Now that is where wanting, So enjoying flower is okay, as long as we see, it's a beautiful flower. The garden is beautiful, or if we see a person, we say, oh, you look elegant today. Oh, you look handsome, you look smart. There's nothing wrong appreciating the beauty of a person, physically or mentally, whatever. There's nothing wrong. Now, what happened is, now if you know Paticca Samuppada, dependent origination, avidya pache sankhara, sankhara pache vijnana, it goes like that. And then we have a salayatana, six senses, that when six senses touches, the object, then you have a vedana, the feeling, sukha feeling, happy feeling, unhappy feeling, neutral feeling takes place. Now that is when comes tanha. Tanha is, oh, I would like to have it. I don't mind having this flower. It's beautiful. Let me have it, in our garden at home. This flower looks very beautiful. Let's either you take a branch of that flower, or you can buy seed in a shop, and then we will have that in a garden. That is wanting, or that is, having, is also still okay. Now there is no attachment. We can say it's attachment, wanting, I need it, I require it, it's okay. Now, what happens there is then after tanha comes, in Pali we say upadana. Upadana is, one can say, is attached. You can say it's a clinging, or it's a hanging on it, or gluing, fixing, holding, and we want to stick. Now, we want, so it's beautiful, we have it. Now I want to have it all the time. I had tasty meal now, just a beautiful tasty meal. It's very tasty. It, I enjoy while eating, and when I finish, I enjoy this meal. I want to have this meal every day. Now, our mind hang on that taste, thinking I want similar type of tasty food all the time. And next day, if I didn't get that tasty meal as I expected, what happens? I'm disappointed, because I want that taste I had yesterday. Now, that is the point, what we call clinging, clinging, wanting. So this we can apply to every aspect of our life, every happenings in our life, every situation in life, what we saw, what we heard, what we tasted, what we felt, what we smelled, and what we thought. We cling on it. We don't want to let it go because we want same. Now, this is the point, is that, if we look at the whole Paticca Samuppada, dependent origination, there are 12 steps, avidya pacha sankhara, sankhara pinsaya vijnana, so on. None of these point we can break. This is the point where you call this upadana, between tanha and upadana. That's the point we can, it's in our hand whether to break it or continue it. So throughout the 12 steps of Paticca Samuppada, we don't have a, anything to say. But when it comes to upadana, we can decide to break it by letting it go, or to hang on it, cling, to hold, fix it, glue it. I want it all the time. Now, this is what happens, that I'll just say that, when it's For example, food. When we are having food, the taste become very important. And some people are so attached that they can't even imagine, to let it go. We just want it, we hold it. Now, how to let it go? That's when, in meditation, I'm sure if you have meditated, it is said that, when we meditate, we say, for example, we take a breathing exercise, anapanasati, tip of nose, we breathe in and breathe out. Now, while meditating, if we hear any noise, say it could be doorbell ringing, somebody rang the doorbell, or in the next house, a child is playing, crying, making noises, or the bus passed by or car passed by. What we are supposed to do is, rather than saying, oh, a bus just went by, we just say sound, sound, sound. It's just recognizing it's a sound. Either we are not labeling, we are not supposed to label that whether it is child's noise, or it's a bus noise, or it's a woman laughing noise, or it's a quarrel, somebody quarreling noise. As soon as we label, what happens? As soon as we label, say that two women are, giggling or laughing, we hear that. First thing comes is, wow, it's a beautiful, two women are laughing or giggling or chatting. That unknowingly, we start feeling attachment. We say, oh, that's a nice voice. That's a nice sound I'm hearing. Raga, attachment, clinging, wanting takes place. Similarly, if we hear two people quarreling or children playing and making noise, then we start disliking because it's disturbing my meditation. I'm trying to meditate here and they're making noise. So it hurts. Dislikeness takes place. Anger takes place. Restlessness takes place. Aversion takes place. All this takes place because we label it's a noise. Children are playing, noise, and they're quarreling or, shouting. Rather than that, if we can label, it's just a noise. It's just a noise. It's just a noise. It's just a hearing. It's just a hearing. It's just a thought. It's just a thought. And if it is anger thought, anger, 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 restlessness. So this is, that whether to cling on that noise, sound, or not to cling and just see as it is. Now that is where it, like a food that maybe because, when we go, as I was a monk, that when we go through training, it's very important that this training we go through, and for day to day in a later life also, it's very important that when we even sit for meal, rather than looking at it, tasty meal, delicious meal, we just look at it, it's a nourishment. It's just a nourishment. It's just a nourishment. So we have to even recite stanzas reflecting that I'm having this meal not to be beautiful, not to be strong, so that I can, do this and that. It's a nourishment to maintain my body, my health, so that I can sustain my life, which I can dedicate and use for the happiness of others, as well as I can learn and practice the teachings, and I can overcome suffering. So now thinking has to be totally different. That's today I have a nice meal, which I enjoyed thoroughly, but tomorrow said that I didn't have it. Or that, okay, I was expecting nice meal and the meal came, it was different taste. There was not enough salt, or when the cake was baked, the cake came with a little bit of burn. So or when we were having a toast in the morning, the toast got a little bit burned. I didn't like it. Or shall I just say, it's okay. It has a different taste. And now I know how burnt toast tastes like. So accepting it, that's when it comes, and that we can overcome. So these, things, attachment and clinging, that is, when we look in the teaching or the practice, that attachment, having, wanting, enjoying in a life is quite okay. We should, we should take care of our family. We should love our wife, husband, children. Yes, there is nothing wrong. Now, the only thing is to be aware, mindful. That is the point. Yeah, that is the point. Now, say that somebody died due to COVID, which is the present situation. COVID is taking place. Now, when COVID takes place, and if somebody has a COVID, what sort of reaction should we have? Should we be scared and say, oh, it's a COVID now, what will happen to me? What will happen to, will I die? Or will I just say, is the virus has, virus has a control in my body. Now I have to be careful and look after. So say somebody died in the family. It could be due to COVID or anything else. What sort of, should we lament? Should we cry? Should we be sorrowful? Or in Buddhist term, we say sangvedana. No? Sangvedana, we become sangvega. Yeah? Rather than lamenting, we say, yes, it's very sad that my father, my mother, my close relatives, friends died. It's a very painful, it's sorrow, because while you can have a lot of memories, good memories, that how you spend life, how we spend different stages of situations. But then at the same time, to understand this life is not forever, and we have to. So what happens is, instead of lamenting, instead of grieving, instead of sorrow, instead of pain, instead of that lost feeling, we will have sangvedana. We say, recognizing, realizing that, yes, it would be nice if they live a little bit longer, but we all have to go. And one day it comes my turn as well. Then you come to mindfulness mentality, that where you can not grasp on that, grasping on that situation and feel anger, lost, but, be able to overcome it. So this is very important, that there was one in Jataka also, it is said that, when in one Jataka, I'll just say briefly, that when Bodhisattva was, going from one village to another, he has to pass through the jungle village, and the robbers, they came in front of him and said, okay, give everything you have. Now he said, look, I have nothing. I only have basic needs, things, my clothes, my food, and this and that. And they took everything from him. Now, the very important point, what Bodhisattva did is, rather than saying, oh, this robber took my everything, now I don't have clothes to wear, this and that. He said, okay, maybe that robber needs more than me. Let him have it. So the situation where he lost everything, he turned around to the dana, let it go. So even the lost, if we lose something, we can turn it around whichever way we want mentally. For just example, in my life also, when I was in Sri Lanka, that one person said, can I borrow some money? I need it. It was not much, but when I was a student, it was, a quite significant amount. I think about 15,000 rupees or something at that time. As a student, it was something, and I said, okay, I lend him that money. And just to be safe, I said, okay, can you write it in a peaceful paper? So he wrote in a piece of paper saying, I borrowed this, I will return you. And after a couple of months, the person disappeared. And I don't know where he went. So I went to his friend and say, so-and-so borrowed money from me. And they said, we don't know. I think, so I went to even his village, So at the end, I came to know that he has left the country to Dubai or something, And now I came to a point where I have a two situation. Now I lost that money. Now, will I get it back? That's the question. Will I get that 15,000 rupees at that time? Will I get it back? That's the question. Now, I can grieve on it. I can feel very bad. I can develop hatred towards that person, or I can let it go. That's the situation I was. And all I thought, and these teachings of the Buddha helped me. And I said, oh, now why should I suffer? I lost my money already anyway, 15,000 rupees. Now, on top of losing my money, should I also suffer and make my life miserable, or turn it around? And what I did was I turned it around and I said, okay, if that person comes back and gives me that money back, I would appreciate, I would thank that person. That would be helpful. If not, may he have it. I just say it's dana. It's my dana to that person. So now, this is what in Buddhism it says. You can turn around the feeling, your situation, your mental state, to negativity or positivity. Do you want to make it negative, bringing, desire, jealousy, grief, hatred, anger, or you just want to say, okay, let it go, and accept it, and then make it life more happy and miserable and, joyful. So, that's why, this upadana attachment is, that's what, in attachment, when we talk about attachment, it's tanha, is wanting, needing, requirement, is quite okay. While, we live, we have, all these necessities. And Buddha never said, no, you can't have it. Buddha even taught in various sutras that how to, if you are a businessman, how can you make money? How can you improve your business? How can you make your life happy, successful, fulfilling your duties and responsibilities, like in the Sigalovada Sutta and various sutras, that Buddha always encouraged for ladies how you can make your life successful and make happy. But meanwhile, also he explained, don't get, hang on it, don't cling, don't attach to it, so that, your life become miserable. So I'll just finish my point there, that, by overcoming this upadana, that we can be happy and let it go. So now we will go to any questions or any suggestions. At the bottom, there's a reaction button. Please, you can put your questions, and then we can move. Okay, I'll wait for questions. And Swayambhuji Dr. Swayambhu just said, very well explained. I think attachment is clinging onto something so much that you just keep on worrying about losing it or being damaged by something. One should understand that it can change at any time or get damaged, and that happens, we should be able to let it go. We should be able to accept that it has been damaged or it has changed. If we cannot let it go or accept it, it will give suffering, that is attachment. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ju. Okay, now Renu Tuladar, yeah, please put your, let me, just a sec. I'm going to unmute okay, you can unmute yourself and put your question, Renu. Renu Tuladar, yeah.
Once again, a very warm good morning there, but good evening from Nepal.
Good afternoon here.
Nice to see you all once again. Yeah, good afternoon. Okay, warm good afternoon there. I'm very happy to meet Dr. Keshar Shrestha. I know him. He was from my parents' home side. I'm daughter of Isurman Tamrakar. Last time when you came here in Kathmandu, I met you. Right? And today, after hearing your presentation, everything, of course, I'm also, though I am followers of Buddhism, but I have not studied in detail. But from Amrit and from previous hour meeting, from there, I'm learning a lot. The one thing now, the topic is very interesting because here in this attachment, doctor also has shown a lot of things. What will happen if there is now the disorder in attachment? Only one my question is to Dr. Keshav Shrestha right now here is, whenever we are talking about attachment, if that also turn into excessive way, negativity, and is that only the thing that we are getting from different our life activities, or is that related with our bodily or biological hormones also? Because I came to know a lot of now the youngsters or teenagers of this time, especially after pandemic, not only because of life activities, I think they are having same. Is there suddenly some sort of now the disorder in their hormonal secretion? This is now I want to hear from our Dr. Sab.
Okay, thank you, Renuji. I think that's a very important question which we need to address. As I explained in my talk, attachment is a good thing to have when you are not fully independent and you are not fully grown up, because all your development depends on that attached person. So if you are not well cared for, if you are not fed properly, and if you are not developed both emotionally, mentally, as well as physically, you cannot become a self-sufficient person. So attachment at that stage is very important. But later not have a very secure, very consistent and affectionate attachment, then you do not become very stable and able person. You do not seem to be able to function in your daily life with certain things, particularly with the relationship. Okay. Now, Amritji explained very well that we have got 6 senses. But what I have to differ is the 6th sense, which he called mind, is not always readily accessible to a lot of people. I think I know the 5 senses, people use it very often, but the 6th sense do not use it very much. That's where you have to make the judgment. As I mentioned in my talk, the insight, whether you understand actually what is happening in the ground, and the capacity, whether you have got the full mental capacity to make a decision or to judge things. So the mind, I think the other word often used is mindfulness. I hear Amritji also said we need to be mindful of what is going on. And his example was very, very pertinent. Particularly, he talked about the flower. Well, you see the flower in the garden, it doesn't mean anything, or you like it so much that the flower is beautiful and you want to have it. Now, not everybody has got that kind of deep sense of understanding, insight, and the mental capacity. There, as you grow older, like, with years of experience, you begin to appreciate this. So to answer your questions, attachment is important for our existence, for our self-independence, and also for our development in all aspects, intellectually, emotionally, and also mentally. It is not a bad thing, but you have to develop the more insight into it and more mental capacity to know what is right and what is not right. So I'm very pleased that Amritji explained about a lot of things, that you do not become greedy, that you want more, or you do not just hang on to it, cling to it. You have got to understand that one time you have to let it go. So attachment do not cause pain, or not hurt you, or not cause misery or tragedies in your life. I hope I have answered your question, Rena.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any more questions? I was just wondering, can I go to Dr. Dharm Sakya, whether he has got any suggestions?
Yeah,
because
if we, okay, before that, we got Vinay Thakpaju. Please put your, he wants to add something there. That.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry for to start with. My greetings to all of you, and sorry for being a little bit late. Maybe more than likely due to my detachment of the meeting. I was with my friends and I forgot about this meeting. So I'm detached and I have already paid for it. Okay. And with this, I would like to pose a question to Dr. Keshar Shrestha.
Go ahead.
Because what I could hear is his last portion of the presentation. And so my question is based just on that. The question is that Dr. Shrestha has said that his attachment to his mother, your attachment to your mother was quite fulfilling. Your attachment to your children is quite fulfilling. And your attachment to your grandchildren, as well as maybe your grandmother, maybe they are a little bit distant. The question is that with those people with whom you are attached, are they all there with you at this time? Or someone has passed away? I can for sure vouchsafe that maybe your grandmother, I don't know if she's there or not. So when we become happy, when we lose that thing, we are unhappy. So my question to you is that unless we understand this transient nature, that things do change. When we get attached and when the thing gets lost. The love with mother is very good, but my mother has already passed away for the last 20 years. So has it paid you by loving and clinging to that person who has got to go? The transient nature is there. I fully agree with you is that you are happy, so that's well and good. That's all right. Everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants to be joyful. But then when we are overjoyed with something, like my wife is here, I'm happy with her. If she somehow disappears, then I will be unhappy. So the point I'm trying to make is that on as we have got gray here, you see, at this stage, if we do not understand that things are transitory, everything is transient, then it will be difficult to satisfy ourselves being happy, because things are not under our control. So what I mean to say is that what I'm trying to say is that there is a barometer of happiness, of unhappiness, and we only survive when the middle path, not too happy, so that we don't have to be too unhappy. Am I making myself clear?
Dr. Keshar ji?
Right.
So,
Okay, sorry, have you finished or do you want to go on?
I have one or two more questions. So, the objective of all of us is to be happy, or in other words, it is to be not to be an unhappy. Looking at the things from the happier side, well and good. But as we grow, as we understand nature, the loved ones will pass away. The near and dear will pass away. The teeth that we enjoy eating good food, biting apple will come out of your mouth. So with this, I'm saying that the only lesson that I have learned is that we want, and that win-win situation is going to the middle part, holding ourselves, remaining calm, and not being too happy, so that we don't have to be too unhappy.
Yeah, thank you, Vinay ji. I think
we understand
let's hear Keshar ji. Let's hear Keshar and Dr. Keshar ji.
Yeah. So this is.
Okay. So first of all, thank you very much for asking this question. I think it is also very this way. That's why in my talk, I mentioned about the insight and also mental capacity. What you said, what you just explained is very true. I think we all have got the insight and we all have got the mental capacity that things are not permanent. Everything is transitory. Now, having said that, we do not worry about losing everything that you love so much now, but we have to prepare yourself with the understanding that it is not going to last forever. That's why the attachment is secured, healthy, and safe, gives you that kind of confidence, that kind of insight, and that mental capacity that nothing is permanent. And one day you will have to lose all of this. Now, you asked me a question about my own family. Yes, I lost my grandmother a long time ago. I think I was probably a very young child, both my grandmother from the mother's side as well as from the father's side. But whatever family I've got, I am still attached to them, and I get a lot of satisfaction, happiness, and also comfort by associating with them. And lose that attachment, hopefully, I will be able to come to terms with the loss and also explain to myself that you had a good time. Sometimes bereavement is not always sad part. You also think about the good times you have had with them and say that thank God for giving me my mother or for giving me my grandmother, whatever, that I had such a lovely time. So that's the way I personally, in my own mind or in my own sixth sense, will interpret that. Okay, so I hope I've explained to you, but thank you for asking the question. I think Lochan Mandar also raised
Yeah,
hand.
Lochan Manandar, she is not appearing. She raised hand. Yes, Lochanji, Lochan Dada,
Oh, there you are.
you have disappeared. Yeah, come on.
No,
Let's
no,
have
she's
a,
there.
You haven't given me the permission to say any word. Anyway,
yes.
Keshar,
Namaskar.
it is such a lovely to hear from you and also from Amrit Dai. This is a kind of ritual everybody has to say, even though I don't have to say, but I'm saying it. It's really well explained about the attachment from the psychiatrist point of view and from the religious point of view, from the Amrit side. Now, from the layman terms, the attachment, my question is, hearing all from both of you, it is such a wonderful that yeah, attachment, and why do we need the attachment to start with, right? The talk that you gave about the family and things like that. Okay, people who have got a family, that's fine. You have an attachment, but people who don't have a family, what is their attachment?
They also have attachment for not having.
Sorry.
Attachment for not having is also attachment.
Yeah, no. So that my question.
Yeah.
Kesa, the
Ajay.
attachment comes is not just because the mother and father and all these things. Just a kind of comment. I'm just learning in a sense that it is not only that. I think. Do you think it is also something to do with the environmental, the siblings that you're growing with, and when you are abroad and it's environmental, and that is something affects you and it becomes attached, and you are more, the more you want to know, the more you are in different places and you become more attached to it, in a sense that okay, I have to have that, I have to have that, because when you are in Rome, you do as Romans do. And the desire is something that people cannot go away without it. That's one thing. And now COVID time, the pandemic time, would you say this Zoom and things, we are so attached to it? Do you think we can be without it these days? That's the second question. And the other thing is that during the pandemic, with all the depression, things like that, without the Zoom, without this technical thing, we will be so depressed. So it is the attachment. Sometimes it is good, as you said in your talk. You know, I mean, I don't know how to put this question in a way that my only understanding that I would like to know from you is, does that environment has got effect on the attachment that we really have to be, to some extent, has to be attached? Without that, we won't, I mean, you know, life would be dull. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. I always enjoy
Thank you.
company and a good discussion we used to have. So let me explain your question in this way. Basically, we human beings are what we call as hedonistic. That means we seek pleasure. That is part of our instinct. We do not want any pain. We do not want any sorrows or hurtful things. We try and avoid that. Okay, that's the first point. The second point is we are social animal. Okay, biologically, we don't live in isolation. We live in company, we live in the family, and also we live in a community, society. So we are social animal. The third point to your question is, I differentiate attachment in, although you mentioned psychiatric and the religious, but I think listening to Amritji, I differentiate emotional attachment and also physical attachment. So what you mentioned about Zoom is a physical attachment, and it has got nothing to do with the mental illness or mental health, okay? Because physical attachment drives you to cling on to it, to have more physical attachment physically and other things. But what I'm talking about is emotional and mental attachment is something different. Okay. Now, Obviously, Amritji gave an example of food, the flower. So you see a beautiful flower, you want to have it. I'm not talking about that. You know, people are greedy by nature. And although you like to think that, well, I'm not greedy, but if you see nice things, oh, would it not be wonderful if I can have it? That's always the first thought. Okay, so when I'm talking about the mental attachment, it is important to give us a very secure and safe upbringing. The confidence, the self-confidence that you have that I can survive in this world. And you feel good about yourself that I have been brought up in a very secure and well environment. The traditional values, everything, helping each other, getting together in the ceremonies gives you the feeling of confidence and makes your foundation even stronger so you can deal on with better, higher, and more challenging situations. So I hope that answers your question, Luton, but always pleased to hear from you.
It's a really nice topic. I think it will take a long time to discuss about it. I think we will do it some other time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lojan Tata. Thank you, Dr. Keshar. Dharmadaksa, you have any point to input in this? And yeah.
Sorry, are you asking me?
No, I'm asking Dr. Dharmasakti.
Oh, I see, right.
Yeah.
Please.
Yes.
How many minutes have I got?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll be the last one. I haven't.
No, as Lawson said, it is a huge topic. It's not only theoretical; it is very, very practical and personal as well. And Keshar, I think for the first time, from the clinical point of view, I understood what attachment is and what are the problems with attachment. So I would like to thank you for your very wonderful presentation. Working as a community pediatrician for the last 25 years, I have seen many children with emotional problem, with learning difficulties because of lack of attachment from their parents, especially working in London where I was working. And thank you for that. And not to take too long, I like what you said about bereavement. When you said that when someone very close to you die, you feel sorry. But the other thing is you can be happy as well, that you had such a enjoyable, pleasant years with him or her for so many years, and you are grateful to that. Now, obviously, I've heard quite a lot of attachment from Buddhist point of view. I just like to give one example, an experience, an incident that happened that I experienced in work about 15 years ago. It is the actual thing. My clinical director is from India. He's a Sharma. He's not a Buddhist. He's Hindu. He's a practicing Hindu, but he also talk about meditation and other Buddhist teachings as well. And he is the one who first time gave me a book written by John Kabat-Zinn, Full Catastrophe Living, which describe in detail the attachments. So we talk about that. And about 12 years ago, I think his father passed away. His father was professor of history in Delhi University. And one of the consultants came to me and said, Dharma, why don't you talk to Ajay? He's really depressed. So they knew I'm very close to him. So I went to him and I said, I'm sorry, Dr. Sharma, your father passed away. Instead of saying anything, he said, Dharma, Buddha was wrong in one thing. I said, what is that? That you don't have attachment. I said, no. Buddha didn't say you don't have attachment. Buddha said, if you have attachment, you will suffer. So, as I said, out of the 4, one is the sense attachment, which Amritji described very well. The other one is the rites and rituals, which in Nepal we practice quite a lot. The third one is views and opinions. If you don't listen to me, you will be my enemy. You do as I say or else. And the fourth and the most difficult one is the attachment to self. Even now, because although Vinay said it's very easy to, not easy, that you should understand that temporary nature, impermanence nature of the life, but it's not that easy. Like my medical director experienced, he talked about attachment all the time, but when his father passed away, he was really depressed for quite a long time and wisdom to time. And I am feeling the same because I had a family loss in Nepal. It's 5-6 weeks now. I still have that little bit grief. I try to meditate, it helps. So attachment, as I don't know, Lotan said, Renu said, everything, it's a big, big issue. And what I suggest is maybe we can continue this discussion on attachment, take it further, and maybe many people can comment on it.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas Sakrijo.
And
Yes.
Keshar, and
yes.
all the questions, Renu, Lotan, put it to make it clear.
Yeah, Dharmeji, I
Yes,
just
before that, yes, attachment is a big thing. Obviously, it is big. Otherwise, we all have been Buddha by now, right? The Buddha has to go through so many lives just to get rid of attachment. That's what at the beginning I said. When he attained the Buddhahood, he uttered stanza, what we call udana, you know, aneka jati sansaran sanda bisang anibisang. That's how it goes. He said, you know, the house builder I was looking is Anha. Desire is the builder of these 5 aggregates, this house. Now, if it was so simple, I think we, you know,
No.
so of course it is difficult.
No.
But that we have to understand, you know, rather than saying it's difficult.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Now you talk about Buddha.
Yeah.
I believe even Buddha,
Yes.
if I remember correctly, before he passed away, he went to Kapilvastu to see the Kapilvastu, his birthplace, his not birthplace, his childhood place for the last time before he passed away. So even Buddha had some degree of attachment.
Yes.
So in
that's
theory,
what I think.
In theory, it is very easy not to have attachment, but in practice, it is very difficult.
I think in my talk, I clearly said having attachment, what we call wanting, needing, you know, family, you know, wanting to have a nice meal, wanting to have a secure life, you know, financial state, you know, a necessity to have a good sleep, you know, money, house, is not a problem. You know, I want to visit Nepal to see my family. It's not a problem. The problem where is clinging that this is what I want and not let it go. That's the problem. I think visiting Buddha to Kapilvastu is not an issue. I think you can say it assessment, but it is just a showing his, you know, closeness. Of course, as Dr. Ji also said, we know that we can't just, you know, how long ever we live in the UK, the affection we have to our Nepal, where we grew childhood, it won't go away. The bondage is there, of course, you know, because that is natural thing. It's a natural thing to have a close connection where you were born, where you were raised, the language you spoke, the family, the country we have is, we always say, oh, you know, whenever that comes. That is to be understood and not, you know, make a problem that comes out of it. I think that is my explanation. Okay, Lotsanji?
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Well, if I mean what Amrit you said, which is quite correct, and everything is Keshar Dai, and you said everything is correct. Dharma said it. When it comes to you, when first of all, I said to start with, why the attachment, the word and issue. This is a way of life.
It's not
And
issue.
the other thing,
It's-
bereavement. No.
We never said it's an issue.
No, can I just say,
Yeah.
the bereavement, what Dharma said is quite correct in a way that it's very well to say, oh yeah, your attachment, this is a way of life, you have to go, one day you have to go. But when it comes to you, then you will know how it feels.
Yes.
Same thing when you have to have an operation. Yeah, we doctor says, oh, that will be all right, you should go to sleep, and the person has to feel, and no matter what you do, you cannot console them sometimes. It's a individual stuff, and the individually how you take it. So we are all here to say, oh, do that. But at the moment, at the end of the day, it is you who have to accept it. It is you who have to decide it. And it is me or you have to know what is attachment, what is not attachment. I really don't have an issue about the attachment. It's a way of life. You just do the best you can in your life. And attachment comes, meditation comes, everybody is trying to teach everyone. But do I really need it, that sort of thing? Sometimes I feel that, sometimes I'm egoistic saying that, oh, I know better, but it is not true. We are all learning. This is all the learning curve, and attachment, meditation, or you do that, or yeah, why are you attaching? It is sometimes very difficult. That's all I have to say. It's really
no, you are right. Of course it is difficult. That's why we try to understand.
We have to experience ourselves, then you will know.
Yes.
Bereavement is something that nobody will know.
Yes. No. That's fine. That's why we discuss. That's why we try to understand, different point of view, and I don't think in this group we are here to say I know better than you. I don't think even Dr. Keshar is not here to say he knows better. It's just sharing his knowledge. We are here to share our views, our understanding, and of course, at the end, it comes to me, self. If it happens to others, it's easy to say, don't worry, it will just go by, it's easy. When it happens to, me, I say, when your mother died, it was your mother, but when my mother died, this is my mother. So it's not easy to let it go. And that's why we practice meditation, so that we can come to that stage where we become more stronger and be able to let it go. Vinayji, you raise your hand.
I just want to thank Dr. Keshar Shrestha for coming to the conclusion that coming to terms with the reality, and that is the middle path. And one line to Lochanji. Now, regarding internet, this is for you. Now, invention is the mother of necessity. Had there been no internet, we will not be wanting it, you see.
Yeah.
So that is one thing. And the last but not the least, I think the summary of this whole exercise is to find the difference between need and greed. When the need is too much, it is attachment. And to draw a line, as Lotanji said, it is different for different people. But you should draw a line between need and greed. Then the problem will be half solved. Thank you.
Yeah, that is, Vinayji, that's well said. Isn't it said that the world has enough for our need, but not for our greed? Yeah? So the world has enough for our need, for not our greed. Yes, Dr. Dharmaji and Dharmasakya, you raise your hand.
Yeah, I think, Amrit, you already answered. I remember you telling us that story about someone else's mother passing away, and when your own mother passed away, he was crying. So I just wanted. I was talking to Susan one day for this talk, and in one of the meditation class. So he told me during the discussion, and not only me, in the group, it was a monthly meditation session. He said he used to attend so many funeral services. He used to, as a Buddhist monk, he attended and he do service. Is that correct? Amrit, is that what you say, service?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, what is your point, Dr. Ji? Yes.
Until his mother and father passed away. That time he realized what attachment is. So my point is attachment, especially the Keshar mentioned emotional attachment, not about material attachment, not about sense pleasure attachment or even the opinion. It is the emotional attachment, the feeling that comes because you are I, mine, my mother, my son, my granddaughter, my grandson, child. That is the one which is I'm still struggling. I hope with the meditation practice and Buddha's teaching, slowly I will be able to lessen it, but I don't think it will go completely.
No, that's true, Dr. Ju. You just said, yes, attachment to self, my, me, is not. It's not easy to let it go, and as we learn in the teachings, it's clearly mentioned that this is not easy. Even we go through the 4 stages of enlightenment, Kaiditi. Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, Arhat. These are 4 stages of enlightenment. Only me, my self idea only go away at the last stage, Arhat. You can be Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, still you have idea of me, I. So once idea of the grasping of me and my is gone, we all are enlightened. So Lotan, your hand is raised, maybe by mistake or
no, maybe she's going to have a cup of tea.
It took some time to learn how to remove the hand for me, you see.
Yeah, so I can remove it. That's not a problem.
So you can become Sotapanna now.
Okay. Yeah. So this attachment is, I think, the first thing we have to come to understand is it's not easy. So if we keep thinking, oh, it's easy, I'm not able to get rid of it, and then unknowingly we start feeling weakness, or that I'm not good, that I couldn't let it go. I'm meditating. I'm being a Buddhist.
Can I suggest something that Amrit? So yes. we have talked about attachment, but I don't think we talk that much about how to let go. Maybe next session we can devote on how to let go. We have talked about attachment. We have talked about what happens to children if they have non-attachment with their parents, but we have not talked about how to let go.
Yeah.
We say meditation alone. Meditation alone also sometimes. Maybe next session, how to let go of attachment.
Yeah, we can arrange that.
Matter of factly,
we can have one of the Bhante and give a talk on that.
We can book Susan Bhante.
Yeah, how to let it go, because that is all we are after. Because okay, that's good. So any more suggestion, question, we can keep discussing this interesting topic.
Amritji, I can see Renu asking some questions.
In her chat.
Can you?
Okay, she just pointed out. Okay, I'm going to read as we are social animal, we need to attach every basic requirement, but I think becoming more into will cause disorder. And then she said, Dr. Keshar, is there any your effective tips for young generation to be free from stress and anxiety during this time? Dr. Ji, over here, due to pandemic, lots of people are not being able to feel normally. How can I help them being their teacher? Yeah, yes, Dr. Ji.
Right. Well, I think, like Dharma says, we can have a separate meeting about how to get rid of anxiety, if we can, how to get rid of stress. That will be another very interesting topic. And I am quite happy to be a part of it, but I'll be talking mostly from the medical or psychiatric point of view. And maybe yourself, Amritji, you can talk from the Buddhist point of view, and similarly other, but we have to, do it another session for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very pragmatic topic of interest to most of the lay persons. So that
Yeah.
way, it's more of a pragmatic question of great interest to all the participants. Thank
Okay,
you.
that's very good. So,
Amrit,
anything else?
how about
Yes.
after that? Shall I ask Susan Bante if she is free, and we?
Yeah. Yeah,
Or
we
would
can.
you like to? Would you? Or
No,
would
no,
you like
please.
to continue?
No, let's hear Bante's point of view. I'm here anyway, so I can put
Okay. If
my
Bante is not
ideas.
available, then we'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Anything, I'm happy to share whatever I know and discuss and learn as well. This is a process of learning and sharing. So, Dhamma Dana is also good. Dhamma Sravana is also good. Dhamma Sakacha is also good. All these are Mangala. Yeah. So,
I will contact Susan Bante. And Keshar, are you free in 1 month?
In
yeah,
1 month.
yes.
Well, I should be, because we usually have the meeting on Sunday, so I don't usually have any program or any activities on Sunday. I keep myself free.
Okay,
Yeah.
But
let's discuss that once, because we are still on a recording. If there is no question
Okay.
if there is no question or suggestion now,
can I just add
Yes.
one last thing, Amrit?
yes, please, yes, so that
I
we
think
can end today's program and then we can
we
go to
learn-
formal discussion.
We learn. Right. So, Amritji, I am really grateful to you, because today I heard you talk about the Buddhist version of attachment, which is quite an eye-opener and enlightening for me. Okay. And I think I learned quite a lot from yourself, which is, I think, is going to really help me in about how Lord Buddha sort of teachings include attachment in a more positive way as well. Not just say you have to turn away and give up everything, but he also, is very much of the opinion that it's good to have attachment. You can't help it. You need attachment, but at a certain extent and limit. So I think that's a new kind of lessons for me, and thank you for that.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's conclude today's topic, this session, and then we can go in formal discussion. Yes, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Keshar Lal Shrestha Ji. First is that he kindly accepted our invitation. In fact, he was quite eager on this topic as well. So we are very fortunate to have a psychiatric point of view that what does mean attachment and how it affects in our life in various ways. So that was very kind of you for sharing with us. And we learned a lot. I'm sure everybody learned a lot. And so, and also we discuss that to a certain extent that, how we can grasp this idea and, make our life more successful and happy by overcoming attachment. And as I mentioned that, attachment is a big thing. Obviously, it is a big thing, and it is the thing that, as Buddha also clearly said, that as long as this clinging, hanging, holding is there, the sansaric journey will continue. It never ends. And this is the point, as I also, try to say, that when we see and when we start clinging, attaching to it, that is the point we can let it go and overcome. And that's when we can, eradicate totally, So it's a long journey, obviously. From Buddha's point of view, also we can see how many lives he was born and practiced various paramitas, perfections, to make him, himself to that standard where he could grasp this, the idea or the builder, this house builder of this Panchaskandha. So it is a long journey, and we are all here to discuss, learn, and help each other in this journey to make our lay life, this life here better, as well as, our sansaric journey as well. So discussing Dhamma, learning, sharing is always good thing. With pure thought and heart, we do what we also say it's a pure action. May this bring understanding within us, make our life more happy and successful and peaceful. And also may we be able to share this with others by bringing joy and happiness among others as well, making this samsara journey more successful, peaceful, as well as others, may they also enjoy their life. And as Buddhist, we always focus on the eradication of this attachment by attending nirvana. So may this help us to attain that stage, and may also we remember our departed relatives who passed away, may also share these good thoughts of goodwill by bringing them happy and success in their sansaric journey and overcome and attain the bliss of Nibbana. With these kind thoughts and wishes, I would like to thank everybody who joined today in Zoom meeting, as well as at, through Facebook Live. May all be well and happy. Thank you. So I'm going to stop today's session.